So I just wanted to go back to the initial question that you asked, what do we have in common?
Yeah.
So I am, okay, I don't like the term ex-Mormon either, but I suppose that's what I am. That's not how I define myself, but I was Mormon for about 35 years. So yeah, know very well the cultural meanings and all of that, and like and respect a lot of things about the church. It made me a lot, created who I am as a person in a lot of ways. It was very influential. Took my mother as a convert from a really horrible family and gave her something to live for because she felt like she didn't have anything. So I really am glad for what the Mormon Church did for my family in a lot of ways. But you asked what we have in common. And I would say one of the things that we have in common, I think, is that we want to shape our own destiny and be understood and loved. And I'm a member of a group of women who are in various stages of transitioning out or figuring out how to leave the Mormon Church or stay in the Mormon Church without believing. Every single one of them has a different experience. Every single one of them has a different relationship with the church. Some of them are very hostile. Some of them are very angry towards what it did to them, what they feel it did to them, whether individual leaders or what its teachings did to their view of their body, their mind, how they own themselves, what their place is in the world, particularly as a woman. But what they all, and many of them are in very tricky relationships with their family members. And I'm sure many of us here know what I'm talking about. It's not like I have to go into detail, right? And what they all want is just to be able to live according to, if I may borrow a Mormon line, the dictates of their own conscience, and be loved by their family, and not be seen as somebody who is an other, somebody who is no longer one of in the group, somebody who doesn't have a value anymore because they are not going to be included in various religious rituals. So I'd say being able to shape the direction of our life and be understood by those who were supposed to be there for us unconditionally.
Thank you. Okay. One of the things that I think everybody craves is community. I think that's something we have in common. And when people are raised Mormon, you have that community there. And so when you leave, most people who leave crave some sort of community because they've had it and they want it. And so I think that's why there's a lot of communities forming of people who used to be Mormon. And ex-Mormon just is a term that works well there. And so, I don't know, I think that's something we have in common is community.
I think one thing that we have in common is a need for a dialogue like this. I know in my family, when I was in my apostate years, just at the dinner table, nobody would ever bring it up with me. Like, what's going on with you? And I always thought that was just kind of childish because talking about it was judging, and that's not what I needed at that time in my life, what I wanted. And so, absolutely, the one thing that we have in common is a need for a dialogue. So, on both ends.
Is that all we have in common?
Yep.
That's actually, these are some really good broad topics too, like a sense of community, needing love, and a sense of destiny and autonomy. Oh look, yeah, just got it all.
And it's more global, but I think we all breathe the same air, we all drink the same water, we all relatively eat the same food, and we live in the same place.
So we have to share, whether we like each other or not. Any thoughts? It doesn't have to be extravagant or amazing. We can even have double thoughts. You and I share a lot in common. We love to talk.
Okay, good. So I think one thing that I was reading, I forgot where I was reading it, but most religions, when someone decides they don't like the religion, they usually cling to a different religion. But Mormonism and Judaism, the majority of people who leave the religion leave it for atheism. And I'm not trying to be like, but like there's a similarity there within the Mormon doctrine. We seek out truth. Everything has to be completely true. We believe we're the restored church that has complete truth. So I think that type of thinking transfers over when someone decides to leave the church. They try to find the absolute truth because Mormonism seemed contradictory to that. So kind of heading in the opposite directions, but actually the same type of feeling that Mormonism is the absolute truth is, I think, leads people not just to go on to another different religion, but to try to find the absolute logical truth. Does that make sense?
I think so. And anyone else? No, I do think so. If anyone else has some other comments on that too, go right ahead and please share. In my personal experience, actually, it really has been. I've always been a lover of truth, and you're spot on. Ever since Mormonism, I go for whatever is true. I want to find the absolute truth. And again, if God exists, I would love to admit it. If I really believe that a God exists. So far, I do not. But maybe that'll change. If we keep having these discussions, perhaps I'll be persuaded the other way. And I don't mean to sound haughty, but I hope that this open honesty and being able to love the truth, no matter where it comes from, as my biology professor said, who's Mormon, by the way. No matter where truth comes from, I hope we are humble and open enough to accept it. That's what he said. We had a hand here.